tours. But for those of you who haven't, quickly, Elisa from Traveluja has been arranging tours of Israel for many, many years, and Itamar has been a guide for many, many years. And Tara and I and our sons had the pleasure of being able to go on a visit to Israel that both Elisa and Itamar helped us arrange. So I thought it would be great to start doing a series of these for us. So this is, I think, our third one so far.
Yeah.
And without further ado, I'll kick it over to Elisa and Itamar.
Okay. Well, I think we have a few new people that weren't on the last couple, right? So I'm just going to introduce I'm Elisa, and I'm here in Israel at the Sea of Galilee, and my company's been around for about 13 years. This is our bar mitzvah year, and we do all sorts of private and group tours. Just to kind of give you, though, an update about what's happening here in Israel before we move on and learn about the Negev desert and the Nabateans. You probably have heard that we are in a process of being vaccinated, as are you. We're probably a bit further along, and that, as many of you probably know, we have a public healthcare system here, and because it is a public healthcare system, we have a choice of 4 different, let's say, call it HMOs, and those institutions have all of our data. So they are able to contact us when it's our turn or our number or our ages come up. We also have the infrastructure in place. So the preparations for this is something that has gone on for a very long time because they already have it. It's not like in the States where it's private, and even if the system's totally different. Plus, we are a small country. We only have a bit over 9 million people, and it's only 7 hours north to south. So all of those things together really allowed Israel to be an amazing test case for Pfizer for the distribution and to really test the effectivity of it. So I just sometimes people just don't understand how it is that Israel was able to do it. And, granted, we have a great plan in place, and there's nothing like having great planning to allow something like this to move forward very quickly. But without the infrastructure, we wouldn't be able to do it. And at this point, almost a little over a third of all Israelis, I think the number I just pulled was about 3.5 million people have already received their first vaccination, and about 2 million people have received their second vaccination. And important in that number is the fact that almost 93% of people over the age of 60 have been vaccinated at least once, and I think about half of which have received it twice. So that's very important because, as you know, people over the age of 60 have generally the ones who are getting very sick and have died. And unfortunately, we have over 5,000 people who have died. Also, unfortunately, our infection numbers seem to be still very high. So they think that's because of the variant, the many variants that are here as well. One issue that we are having with vaccinations is that you're seeing, you're seeing high vaccination percentages among Israelis that are secular, and not as much among the Haredi and the Arab populations. While they are getting vaccinated, but certainly not to the same percentage points as people in the secular. And I can just give you an example. I have moved. I live up in the Galilee. I was at a doctor's actually earlier today, and I asked him about the vaccination. And he said where I used to live, like down in Renana, it was about a 98% vaccination rate. Here in the north, it's more difficult. He has to spend a lot more time educating his clientele about vaccinating, and much smaller amounts of people are doing it. It's really all about the educational process. So we do have challenges in that area, but obviously it's moving forward. And they just opened up our vaccinations to even kids over the age of 16 as of today. So they even said tourists, whoever's in the country can now go get vaccinated. But anyway, that's our picture right now. Their studies have already been done and have said that 95 the vaccinations, the Pfizer here, have had a 95% effectivity rate. So that's really great too, because we're getting results that they had said that we would be having. Anyway, with that little intro about
Just one point.
that's really our news. Sure,
Lisa,
go
just
ahead.
want to make sure when you say the Palestinians, make sure that they're offered it. It's just a it's a cultural resistance, not that they're not being offered it.
Okay, now that's
Stuff going
apples
in
and
this
no.
country. The Palestinians aren't being offered anything.
No, I'm talking about within Israel proper,
Right.
within Israel. So no, and so the Arabs and no, they have their own. They have clinics inside the Sachin where I was today. They have clinics. They have Maccabi. They've got Klalit. They have everything there that you'd have in any other neighborhood. I am not including the Palestinian territories, which is not a part of an official Israel. Now, yes, that's a whole nother conversation about the vaccination process that's going on there. And that we could talk about for a very long time and probably not agree. There's a whole host of reasons why they're not getting the vaccinations as what's happening within Israel proper. So happy to talk about this more at the end of the session, but I just thought I'd give you an update because we do get a lot of questions about that, and I know it's a very hot topic for people these days, and I obviously really hope that all of you are able to get your vaccinations soon as well in the States. So with that, any further ado, there's a lot of topics I could talk about, but that's the biggest one, and I'm going to turn this over to Itamar so you can hear a bit about our desert and the Nabatean spice route.
Yes, thank you. So hello everyone, pleasure to be with you once again, and thank you Severio for putting this together, and thank you Lisa for the update. So we are going to travel the desert today, and I would say normally during this time of the year, around December, January, February, people actually, Israelis, love hanging out in the desert. Temperatures are very comfortable, and although we have some nice springs here and there, it's mostly dry, of course, and traveling it during these the colder time of the year, it's actually very convenient. I would actually love to add another angle to it, the Abraham's Accord that we have with the Emirates, and we're talking about mainly the Negev desert, but I would like to put it in the right context. What are we talking about? The Abraham's Accord are with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, which are situated over here, the Arabian Gulf or the Persian Gulf, depends who you ask. And since last year somewhere, when we signed this accord, basically the ties are started to become closer and closer, phone calls, all kinds of new ideas between the two countries, Israelis that are going there. I'm sure Lisa could even elaborate more about that. And also in the tourism business there, I know that the talk is about how to open new land bridges between the Gulf and Israel. Clearly, you can see that you can travel through right away. You can basically drive through to Israel. So let's say Allenby Bridge, or there's a checkpoint in Eilat, for example. Okay, so the idea is that the ancient routes can connect us once again. Okay, so this is just a big overview of the Middle East. Let me just take you through the spice route, the ancient spice route, starting at Oman, in a place called, no, where is that? Here it is. Yes, Salalah. Okay, in a place called Oman, in the country of Oman. So it's not exactly the United Arab Emirates, which is this. I'm talking about a different country, Oman. This is where they were manufacturing the spices, myrrh and frankincense and others. Okay, so in Salalah, Oman, and in Yemen, these are the areas where these spices, incense, are coming from. And the spice routes were actually starting in this area, in the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula. And let's move forward to another stop, a famous city in Saudi Arabia called Medina. It's the second holiest city for Islam, the burial place of Prophet Muhammad. And there is the route went through here, okay, through Mecca and Medina. Let's move forward. And we're heading to Petra in Jordan. Okay, so let's enter in. Oops, sorry. Here we go. Let's go to Petra. Probably some of you have been to Petra itself. It's a pretty big site. Okay. I myself haven't been there since, as a reserve officer, not all of us can go. So I'll only enjoy the pictures. And those of you who haven't been, let's just use what Google can give us and walk in the Sik. Okay, the Sik, that's the narrow path to enter the Chazne. The Chazne, the treasury of the Nabateans, and in a way the capital of the Nabateans. So this is the famous Chazne that I believe some of you have seen pictures before. Okay, there are ways of getting there. For example, where is the camel? Where is he? Here he is. Okay, so you can get a camel or a chariot to get there. So this is just a part of the spice route. I'm moving now, a little fast, okay? Moving now from Jordan. I'm crossing now the border to Israel. And you're gonna see there are quite a few stations over here that I marked, okay? As you can see, all these yellow and blue dots, okay, all the way to Gaza. This is the ancient spice route. There were actually a few of them, but this is the, let's say, the Israeli branch, the important branch of it. So I'm skipping one of those, let's call it stations. There are 60 something stations from Arabia all the way to Gaza, to the port. And in Mitzpe Ramon, in the Machtesh, the big crater, Machtesh Ramon, the crater of Ramon, we have few of those stations. So what you see over here, this is just one of them. Not a lot of it have left, but you'll have to believe me that when you visit it, you can clearly see the rooms that used to be here. There used to be like guarding towers on the corners, rooms for the people and for the livestock, the camels, of course, we were feeding them, and then they would move on to the next station. Now, because such expensive spices and incense and sometimes gold and ivory and expensive products, let's say, were coming there, they needed to secure the road. So for example, I showed you a station to stay overnight. The next thing that I'm showing you is, again, the desert, the Negev desert, and what you see over here, where this biker generously took this photosphere. You can see a little post for soldiers, for the soldiers that kept the road, so no one would raid the merchants and their camels. From there, we can go on and on from one station to the next. We'll see some of it as we go, but I won't dive into it right away. I will show you a few pictures of it, of course, during the session. A place called Avdat, another place called Shivta, and another place called Khalsa. These are all the Nabatean cities that were established along the spice routes. And I'll just say that they represent a different phase in their identity, and we'll talk more about it. The ultimate goal was to reach to the Mediterranean, to Gaza, or to Alexandria, depends which period. But this is the idea. So now you got a little perspective of what is the meaning of the spice route, okay? Starting in the southern part of Arabia, all the way to Gaza, and from there to the Roman Hellenistic world and the Roman world. So let's stop with that. And if there are any questions, of course, you're always welcome. And as I'm loading now my presentation, I'll go back and forth just a little bit when it's needed.
Roger has a question.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Laura has a question.
Oh, sorry.
You didn't know that.
Who's that? Sorry?
How long does it take to, let's say, drive across there? And why didn't they just go with the sea route?
It's not as secure, the sea route. There are pirates.
Okay.
So when you go alone in the desert, it would take you probably like good 2 months, sometimes even more. Depends also where you're starting. If you start in Yemen, let's say a month and a half. If you start in Oman, it could be a little longer. But let's say roughly quite a few weeks on the road. And this is just one way, and you'll have to go back. So clearly, you can imagine that they were absent significant time, unless they would divide it and not the same merchant leading that caravan all the way to Gaza. And that's how long it would take for the frankincense to get from the place where it was, where it grows in Oman, all the way to Gaza, and from there another, let's say, 2 weeks or 3 weeks at the open sea in the Mediterranean, secured by Roman soldiers. Okay, so this is
now it's so insecure that even today we got modern day pirates near Oman, right, in Eritrea and
yeah,
those other
Somalia, yeah.
Also, how long would it take to, let's say, drive today? We wanted to go along that distance.
Few days driving. Yeah. Look, it's not accessible for Israelis. So let's say we're driving to Jordan. That's it. Saudi Arabia, we don't have diplomatic relationship with them. But this is exactly the type of, let's call it new paradigm, the paradigm shift that we're going through now. Because if we do normalize our relationship with Saudi Arabia, then the whole touristic product, not just for Israelis, but for whoever come to the region, would be completely different, because now you can travel in a different way. So these are the kind of things that because of COVID, we can't really experience at the moment. But once the sky open and, you know, the pandemic will fade out, we can talk more about it and see how, you know, how the world of tourism respond to it.
Thank you.
Am I correct to assume that each one of those sites had a source of water?
Say it again?
Am I correct to assume that each of those sites had a water source?
Yes, these are oases. Yes.
No.
Yeah, they have water there. There are springs.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Springs and other water sources that I'm going to describe in a moment. So just a few words about the Negev desert. The Negev desert, the southern desert of Israel. So whenever we hear the word Negev in the Bible, the Tanakh, it means south. Okay. So just as an example, and Abraham journeyed going on still towards the south, and the Hebrew word is Negba. Okay. Just as an example, it goes on and on. The Negev country, the land of Negev, that's the south country. So you can clearly see that over and over again in the Bible. The cities of the south, again, the cities of Han-Negev, that's what you can see in the last phrase. So clearly Negev is south. But what is the actual meaning of the word Negev? It means wiped dry. Okay, so the Hebrew word for towel is magevet. It comes from the same root, and again, it's wiped dry. There's barely any water over there. Some parts of the Negev desert in Israel it's a part of the Sahara. Okay, geographically speaking, it's a part of the Sahara, and it has very, very few days of rain. Now, the magic that not just myself, it's not just me that impressed by that, it's King David and others that were very, very impressed by the floods. Okay, so what I'm showing you now is a YouTube kindly photographed by a man called Joseph. And I think I didn't put the sound though. Let me just do it again. Sadly, I keep forgetting that. Here we go. So I want you to just enjoy, even if it's a little choppy, just enjoy the view of the water, the flash floods in the Negev desert. Let's go. Here we go. So how beautiful the nature in the south this way. Just rearrange that. Again, the beauty of having floods, flash floods in the Negev desert. It's so impressive. And just think about Shir HaMa'alot that says "Ke'afikim b'Negev," as streams in the Negev desert. So we will return hastily as the water runs in the Negev desert. So we will return back to our land of Israel. So this is from Psalms, I think 126. Now, having said that, I would just say that Abraham too was living in the Negev, at least in the northern part of the Negev desert. So what you see here is what we call the Well of Abraham in Beersheba, and that's how it looks like. It's pretty deep, something like 200 feet deep, and this is again the main source of water in Beersheba, ancient biblical Beersheba. Just a little recreation of how it looked like back then. A few more things about the Negev, the southern district. So it's more than half the country, okay? More than half the country is the Negev desert, and it's completely, as I said, it's completely dry. And 1.5 million people live over there, but that includes, if you look carefully at the map, okay, let's say the Negev desert is actually this, okay, from here south, but it actually includes some northern parts, including the city of Ashkelon and Ashdod, I think, this area. So as you can see, it includes some populated area, but this area is very few people actually live there, just few hundreds of thousands. Okay, so this is again the southern district. It has a lot of agriculture, as we are going to see, nature reserves, and of course army bases, so you name it. Now I just want to show you a few of the army bases that we have over there. Clearly lots of the Air Force is there, the main school for officers, the main academy for officers of the IDF is there, called Bahad Echad, and armored corps, including women, that took this funny picture that you see over here. And the last one is this. This is a military base. I know it looks like a Muslim village with all these minarets, but this is actually a center of a urban warfare training center of Tse'elim. So this is all like
That's
the
where they
variety
shot
of military bases. Sorry, yes?
And that's where they shot the 3rd season of Fauda.
Ah, okay. You see, that's
Salim.
an important anecdote.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. So this is again the type of military bases that we have in the south, and we have quite a few of them. Nice attractions as sandboarding, and that's how it looks like when you do it. I fell a few times, but our interest is, of course, the Nabateans and the transformation of their identity. And I think that looking at the ancient nations that lived here will tell us something at the end of the session. Will tell us something as Jews and as part of Israel. It will teach us something, I think. So this is how we start. So we have few sources, few early sources. You can see the names of the ancient historians, Hellenistic and Roman historians. From all these sources, we understand their rules, okay? And they had 3 rules they lived by: no houses, no agriculture, and no wine, okay? No wine is allowed, no agriculture. We must not plant any seeds, and be nomadic, so no houses. That's their lifestyle. The name Nabatu, the Nabateans, Nabatu, comes from their language. That means the one that carve cisterns to capture the flash floods that I just showed you. So this is one important cistern that we found not too far from Ben Gurion's tomb in the town of Sde Boker, or the community of Sde Boker. So this is again how their cisterns look like, pretty massive. Clearly it was not open to the sky. It was at some point the ceiling collapsed, but it was closed and protected the water. So this is again how they looked like, and this is the origin of their name, Nabatu, okay? Another thing that we can see in one of their cistern is this. You can see that they dedicated a certain spot for their gods over here. And we know they had 3 main gods. That's Allat, Al-Uzat, and Al-Munat. These are the 3 goddesses, you can say, the female gods. And many of them worship the male god called Dushara. Dushara, that was the main one, Al-Uzat and Al-Munat, and there was another female goddess called Allat. So this is again their gods, and the phase that they are pagans. They're still pagans at this point. So let's move forward. I want to say something in general about desert and monotheism. It's very interesting that we have 3 important Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and all of them emerged from the desert. Okay, there's something about the desert and the fact that it's so empty in a way that it became the birthplace of these monotheistic religions. So Moses from the desert of Midian, Jesus from the wilderness of Jericho, and Prophet Muhammad from Saudi Arabia, from the deserts of Arabia near Mecca. So there's something, again, as I said, about this emptiness that makes you see something that is whole and complete. Unlike the northern belief systems, Greek, Rome, and northern ones, even the Canaanites, okay, they believed in many gods, because when you have rain and you see all these different powers, you try to manifest them in different gods: the god of the trees, the god of the shepherds, the god of this, the god of that. And again, the desert kind of changed this changes for the people who dwell there and who live there. Since ancient times, the rabbis looked at the Nabateans and they said the Nabateans are probably descendants of Abraham from a man called Nevayot. Nevayot, how is that so? There was a man called Nevayot, the firstborn of Ishmael, as you can see over here from the book of Chronicles. He was the firstborn of Ishmael. So there you go. It's the grandson of Abraham called Nevayot, therefore Nabateans. In Hebrew, it sounds very similar. The root system makes it sound very similar. So who knows? Maybe the Nabateans are descendants of Abraham through Ishmael. As we said, at first they are pagan merchants. Moving forward, that's how. Oh, sorry, I didn't show you the myrrh and frankincense. Sorry. You can see the different spices, such as cinnamon over here, frankincense and myrrh. That's how it looks like. Okay, and curcum, cardamom. You can see all these different beautiful spices that they were trading with. Also, little vessels for the expensive oils of these different perfumes. So you can clearly see it was expensive back then, as it is expensive today. Another thing that they were dealing with is asphalt, a natural asphalt that comes from the Dead Sea mainly. It was used also for cosmetics, medicine, etc. So in a way, you can say they were the spa vendors of the ancient world. So this is Ahava from the Dead Sea, and I believe you are familiar with this brand. And the point is that they were dealing exactly with products that are easy to carry, okay, not too heavy, and extremely valuable. Okay, that was their business, let's say. So we talked about the spice route. In a more, let's say, general view of the world, you can clearly see that it's not just the system, the root system, the trade routes of the Arabian Peninsula. Okay, it's a part of a much greater a commercial system coming from China, Silk Road, all the way to Europe, and the same from the Far East, Southeast Asia, to Cochin, for example, and Goa and other cities in the western coast of India. And from there, with ships to the Western Africa and to the Arabian Gulf. So this is, again, how it, like the general view of this route system. Okay, we talked about Petra. Showed you a few of those. You can clearly see at this point, the Roman influence, okay? And we also talked about the different cities and stations along the road. So again, we will just talk about two of them, or mention two of them, Avdat and Shivta over here, which is also a thriving area today, as we're gonna see. A few months ago, we celebrate, now we're in Adar already, so I have to say Chodesh Tov to all of you, happy new month. But let's say 2 months ago, we celebrated Hanukkah. So I'll just say that the Maccabees had lots of troubles with the Nabateans. They tried to take over their commerce and tax them so they can enjoy, the wealth. And they were smart. They're desert people. They found a way to go around the Maccabees. But in the 1st century BC, this man called Herod, King Herod, he's actually half Nabatean. His mother is Nabatean. Okay, his mother is Nabatean. He's not afraid of them. He has good relations with them. These are his relatives, and he gives them the permission to go through his land to Gaza, and they are happy to pay their relative in Judea, Herod, whatever he wanted. They probably had good business together, and we know that during his time, they're again walking through the Negev desert after a short stop in the days of Alexander Yanai from the Maccabees. So just a few words about the Bible and the Nabateans. We don't know about the Nabateans from the Bible other than the name that I mentioned earlier, Nevayot, who knows? But we do have these people that are mentioned in the book of Jeremiah, the Rechabites. The Rechabites, the descendants of Rechab, Yonadav ben Rechab. And these Rechabites also say, we do not drink wine. Also, you must never build houses, sow seed, or plant vineyards. You see? So this is, again, something they promised their father, and they are following these rules years and years and years after that. And Jeremiah, prophet Jeremiah, he brings this story in chapter 35, it's not just a random story. He says, you see, these people follow their father, but you do not follow your God. Yes, Rabbi.
I have a question. I'm looking at what it says. You shouldn't sow seed or plant vineyards.
Mm-hmm.
The Nabateans, whoever you mentioned.
Nabateans, yes.
Nabateans, is that with it's with a tet, right?
Yes.
Isn't Nabat like a seedling?
Yes, looks the same. But again, this is from their language. It's from their language. It's like sprouts. Nevatim is sprouts.
Right, but these people are commanded to not do what is a reference perhaps to the other people. Were they fighting? Is that like a textual possibility?
No.
Okay.
No. Also, again, the tet and the taf are confusing. Nevayot is with taf. Nabatim, we write it with tet. Who knows? Again, we have to judge it according to their language, and they have
the tav in evolution of Hebrew used to be a shin. That's why sometimes you have klat in the Talmud is shalash, right?
Well, there you go. I mean, in Arabic too. It's these are all very much they confuse these letters constantly. Okay. So here we are. We see this Bedouin tent. Okay, just to show you the desert people that we have in this region. But these are not yet the people that we're talking about. They are nomadic, but they do have some nice culture at this point. So you can see their vessels they were using, these plates, for example. And we're starting to see at some point that they develop towns. Okay, not exactly, they didn't live in those towns. They lived in tents still, but they started to build stone buildings, not for themselves, but for their horses. Okay, so they started to build stables for their horses and cultivate the Arabian horses. And these are Arabian horses today. And this is the beginning of the southern cities, the Negev cities at that time. I'm talking about, let's say, 1st century CE, roughly, and 2nd century CE. So this is, again, how these stables used to look like. Take a look at this. You can see they have some nice room over here, the horses. Okay, very comfortable. They have shade, so beautiful. In the 2nd century CE, we have a man called Trajan, Trajanus Caesar, the Roman Caesar. He managed to conquer Arabia, and after long series of battles and wars against the Nabateans, he managed to capture them and annex their territories to the Roman Empire, to the Roman world. Okay, so that's again how it looks like, the Roman Empire's map, and you can see that Petra is now a part. Oh, I'll use a different color maybe. You can see that Petra was now annexed all the way to the area of Tabuk, all the way here. This is a part now of the Roman world, and this is happening in the 2nd century CE. So we're kind of going through time, without elaborating much about it, I'll say that it was at some point Arabia was so important for the Romans as the eastern border of the empire. So they incorporated completely the Nabateans, and it turned it into, again, part of their fortification system. Why am I saying that? It actually has something to do with the Jewish history. What I'm showing you now, what you see here is a Roman camp of a legion that we are familiar with from our history, the 10th Legion. The 10th Legion is the one that destroyed the temple in Jerusalem at 70 CE. And after a few years in Jerusalem, they will be sent by the Roman Caesars to the south, first to Avdat, later to Eilat, all the way by the Red Sea, and they will be there for almost 300 years. Okay, so the 10th Legion that destroyed the temple later on will become a part of the fortifications of the Roman world on its southeast corner, which is again the Negev desert and Arabia. So again, what you see here is an ancient Roman camp situated in the city of Avdat. We saw some stone buildings, and now we're seeing the complete transition of the Nabateans to civilization, I would say. Not only that, in the 4th century, they will also convert to Christianity. So this is the 2nd phase of the Nabateans, Christian farmers. We started with nomadic pagans, merchants, sorry. There were merchants and there were pagans. Now they start to raise some horses and now to breed horses. And now we're going to a 2nd phase. They are Christian farmers. And this brings us again to the ancient Negev desert cities. Not only that they build houses, they also start to cultivate vineyards and produce wine in massive numbers, okay? So I'm just showing you how these terraces look like, so you'll be familiar with it. And I will move now to a modern farm in the Negev desert, exactly where these Nabatean terraces used to be too. And this is a modern farm today, Karmei Avdat, of a lovely couple that they are just one. This is just one farm out of probably good 30 of those between Beersheba and Mitzpe Ramon in the south. And they are using the same ancient terraces that were built by the Nabateans, okay? So before we get on with that, I just want to show you how amazing their terraces were, okay? So let me just do this. And you'll see, again, I think you'll find that impressive. Let's see. Okay. With the help of Google Earth, I'm heading now to that area. Here we go. So I'm just flying over the city of Avdat. The 10th Legion camp is here. The city of Avdat is this area. Okay. And let's take a look at the terraces. Okay. Going a bit closer. And now you can see that they build terraces here. 1, 2, 3 to capture the floods. There are a few days of rain a year, and they decided, okay, if we have a few drops of water, let's use it. Okay, so they started to build these terraces. Let's see how far these terraces goes. Again, the town is here. Here's the town. Let's see how far it goes. Upstream now we're going, and you can see more and more terraces. You can clearly see that there is like rubble over here. These are the terraces. Let's go on another mile, and more and more and more. And they actually used every drop of water. And there are not too many, okay? But they exploited every drop of water to cultivate and to produce wine, grapes, and export it to the Byzantine world. As you can see, it still goes on and on. You can still see again, even here, you can still see the terraces. You see this one, these are all terraces. You can see it from the air. Okay, let's see some more. All the way to the end of that stream, you see? And if I'll zoom out, you'll see it's like probably good 3 or 4 miles away from the city. And this is just one little stream out of many, okay? It goes this way too, onward, all around the city. So they were extremely intelligent in how to use the little water that the desert gives them to produce as much crops as possible. Okay, I'll show you a few more pictures of their cities, and maybe one little video. So this is the wine press, very sophisticated wine press that you can see. This is commercial. This is industrial wine press. Okay, you have people standing here, 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 here. Okay, and everyone step on the grapes for days and days and days and days, and they would store the juice to ferment it and create great wine from the Holy Land. That was their brand, wine from the Holy Land. I remind you they're Christians at this point. What you see here is the pit where they would collect the juice to, and from there to ferment it. These are the vessels that we found in the different towns. And these are the storerooms for these wines, the vessels. Here, you can see it here. These are not the original ones, but you can clearly understand that they had these types of vessels. I'll skip this one. Okay. As I said, they are Christians at this point. Okay. So let's take a look at the city of Shivta. I can assure you 100% that if you'll come to Israel, you won't be visiting Shivta. Okay. You won't be visiting Shivta, sadly. Okay. Because this is simply unbelievable. It's a city, it's just there for 1,300 years. It was just waiting for us, the tourists, to visit it. So I'll just jump a little bit here and there. And I'm just walking with you at the city of Shivta. Hundreds of rooms and houses. You can clearly see that. If it's too choppy, just let me know. I'm just going through a few of these houses. And I want to take you, as I said, there are Christians at this point. So let's take a look at their town, and soon enough we'll see their church. Okay, I'll skip this part if you don't mind. Again, I just want to show you the main streets. Quality is a bit high, I guess. Yeah, okay. Again, houses, more houses. And I'm heading now to the main church, okay? Even from here, you can see that there is something going on over here, right? So let's just wait for it, and we'll get to it in a moment. Another thing that I want to show you is the water canal. You can see it right here, that collected water from all the houses, collected the water to a main reservoir of the cities. They didn't lose any drop of water. It's unbelievable, okay? And we're heading now right. You can see again the water canal just over here. That would lead you to the main reservoir. that is just over here to the right. And more water canals, that's fine. We saw that. Oops. Here, now we're going to see the main reservoir. You can see how big it is and how dry everything around it is, and you'll be amazed, I think. Take a look. It's huge. It's huge. It's for a whole city. We talk about a few thousands of people, okay? So this is the main southern reservoir of the city. And now we're going to enter the church. So let's enter the church. Let's take a look. They had cisterns really all over the place, and even a little baptisterium, that's how it's called in Latin, baptism for the baptism of the elders. So you can see it's shaped like a cross and a few steps. This is like, it's not exactly a mikveh, of course, and this is for older Christians to be baptized just over here. Okay, and finally, let's enter the church. Here we go. You can see the decorations. And beside of the beautiful chiseled decorations, they also have few churches. This is just one of them. This is just one of the churches out of 3 big ones. Here we go. You can see the chapel. It's in the middle of the desert, middle of nowhere, okay? You would never guess it's there, and most people don't even go there. So this is, again, the main church in the middle of Shivta. Great. Okay. So we just saw, again, the second phase of the Nabateans, and I'm going to end now with the last one and maybe conclude with something about us Israelis today and the people of Israel. What can we learn from the Nabateans? So I'm skipping just a few things. Here we are. So they've been, as I said, Christians for a few centuries. And in the 7th century, Islam is taking over the country, taking over the Negev desert as well. And they don't drink wine. They don't drink wine, and not only that they don't drink wine, they also tax those who make wine. So you can clearly understand that their industry was in decline. Some of them converted to Islam. Some of them just migrated to Egypt and to other areas. And slowly, these cities collapse, you can say. Collapse because that's it. There is no Christian pilgrims. No one is buying the wine. And with the Muslims, they have difficulties, and they just start to leave. And this brings us to a long period of time that the Negev desert will be inhabited by Muslim shepherds. Some of them will be descendants of these Nabateans, as we know from different inscriptions that the Bedouins today in the Negev desert still keep, all kinds of inscriptions with crosses. You can clearly see that some of the Bedouins that live today in Israel are originated from the Christian Nabateans. There are quite a few tribes like that. And the rest are just, that's it, they're Muslims. From now on, they are Muslims. So I'm taking you now back to Shivta to show you one of the most ancient mosques in the world. Okay, this is from the probably from the 7th century and no later than the 8th century. It's probably from the early days of Islam in the region. And you can see the 3 steps over here climbing up to this plaza over here. This plaza is just next to the church that I just showed you. And the Muslims wanted to show these Christian farmers who's the boss. So they took some of the crosses from the church to be a part of the doorstep. Okay, so you can see a cross over here. If you look at it carefully, you can see the cross just over here. And you can clearly see again the rivalry between and the competition between Christianity and Islam in its early days. So this is again how it looked like. Not too far from Shivta, there is also another ancient mosque that was found 5 minutes from Ben Gurion's tomb. What you see here, this area over here, that's the Qibla. Okay, the Qibla is the direction to Mecca. Okay, every mosque has some kind of niche called mihrab, and it shows the direction to Mecca, which is called Qibla. Okay, so that's what you see over here. And we found those ancient mosques in several parts of the country where Nabateans lived. This is the city of Ashdod. And also we can see this Qibla, the mihrab, that shows the way, the direction of prayer. Okay, again, you can see this little arch that faces to Mecca. And at this point, that's it. The Nabateans are completely assimilated either to the Byzantine world or to the Muslim world, and they're no longer let's say, a political entity. Few centuries ago, someone decided to paint these ancient paintings that you see, not paintings, but I'll constantly forget the word, Lisa, if you can remind me. When they chisel, you know, these
Hieroglyphics.
hieroglyphics.
Petrograph.
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 That's the one, hydrographs.
You got it.
So this is, you can see the ibex, these wild goats of the desert, okay? And between those, they also find this. And what you see here in Arabic is Allah, the name of God. In Arabic, Allah, over here too. This is like standing for A, this is L, and stands for H, Allah. So there you go, and we find that, and we can see again the transition of the transformation of the identity. I will also say that the Islam and the Quran, they refer to these goddesses of the Nabateans. Compare this with the female idols Allat and Al-Uzat and El-Munat, okay? That's the three goddesses of the Nabateans. The third one, okay? And do you have sons? Well, he has these as daughters, okay? They basically reject the concept that God could possibly have any son. So you can see that even in the Quran, they deal with the Nabateans and their gods. So what do we have now? We started with merchants that were pagans, then we moved to Christian farmers, and now we are with nomadic Muslims, such as the Bedouins today. I had the honor to work with this lady and with this old man and his grandchildren when I was serving in the Negev desert as a teacher before my army service. And you can clearly see that they have their own unique culture, their own strong relations with Abraham, and and most of all, their hospitality. They really kept that as the desert people. The hospitality is absolutely amazing. They know that no one can survive in the desert without the generous hospitality with dates and now with coffee. And in this way, they preserve, again, their strong connection to Abraham. So I truly believe that something have left from back then until our days. But as I said, as an entity, as a distinct entity, the Nabateans are, they perished. So I'll skip on this one. You can see this sweet camel with his blanket over here. How sweet. And before I finish and open it for a few questions, I'll just say that when you look at the Negev desert today, very close to these Nabatean areas that I just showed you, you can see where the desert bloom again. I would say since the 40s, the Jews under the British mandate started to develop the Negev desert, starting from this area, the Western Negev, where now you can clearly see it's filled with agriculture. You can see all the fields and crops over here, okay? But even southern than that, you can see Retamim, Revivim, all this area the desert is blooming again, Ashalim. And you can go towards Sde Boker. Sde Boker is where Ben Gurion is buried, okay? And between this area all the way to Mitzpe Ramon, there are a few farms. Some of them I showed you earlier. You can see the green patches. You can see these nice green patches here and there. based on the Nabatean terraces. So the desert is blooming again, thanks to the efforts of these, I would say, pioneers. And if you go down to the Arava Valley, it's even more, you can clearly see that even more. Wait 1 second, I'll find you.
If I can just jump for 1 second, Itamar.
Yes, go ahead.
In the Arava Valley that Itamar is showing you now,
Here,
it's
this is the Arava Valley.
a particularly important part of Israel for progressive Jews, because our 2 kibbutzim, the 2 reform kibbutzim are there.
Here we are.
Kibbutz Yael, and there you have Lotan. Lotan, they do these. I'm sure that you can say a lot more than what I can from my experience there, but they have like these cool houses made of argile that are always the same temperature inside without any kind of cooling or heating.
Isn't it in Torah? I think it's in Torah for some reason.
I think it's in Lotan, no?
For some reason, I think it's in Torah.
Oh, they're not that far from each other. So
yeah. It's supposed to be here somewhere.
Lotan and Yael are part of the Israeli movement for progressive Judaism. They're the center of Reform Jewish ideology in Israel. So that's remarkable too.
Yeah, take a look. Just dealing with this arid land and even salty land, I would even say. This is something amazing, and you can see these green patches. That really didn't exist for centuries and centuries before they came. So again, you can see Paran and Tzofar and Yahav, all the Hatzeva. Okay, you can see the greenhouses in the middle of nowhere, really. I just showed you again the pictures and some flash floods. Okay, but you can see that again. So I would definitely say that the desert is blooming again thanks to the research and development and to the hard work of all these incredible people that live over there. I just showed you a few of these patches. There is also the Egyptian border in this area here in Nitzana, all this area also lots of unique agriculture. So this is just to give you a taste of that. And I would say while the Nabateans lost their identity over time, it happened that the Jews that kept their identity for so long managed to go back and make the desert bloom again. And this is not something to take lightly, because for centuries, this area was completely abandoned, I would even say. So if there are any questions, of course, you're more than welcome. There you go.
Itamar, you mentioned when you showed us Shivta.
Shivta, yes.
Yeah, we pretty much, you can guarantee that we wouldn't visit there.
Yeah.
Not just because it's so remote, because it seemed like a very interesting place.
It's just not. Elisa, maybe you can explain why they don't send anyone to Shivta. Such an incredible site. It's a little bit off the beaten track, you know. It's not on Road 40, for example.
Yeah, it's a bit off the track. Actually, does have, I think, a lot to offer. I've been down there with a group, but it's very rare. Because you're going down kind of close to the Egyptian border. So once you go all the way down there, there's no like quick road to go from there to Mitzvah Ramon. You have to actually go back north and then go back south again, like a V. But all that said, I do believe, I mean, there's a little hotel, but there's like a little bus there called the Zimmer bus that was turned into like a hostel kind of lodging. I think that it's a very small group. So, you know, people who want to kind of rough it and do something a little bit, you know, way off the beaten path do go down there. And we're seeing a little bit more glamping and things down along that way.
Yeah.
But there really is nothing. I mean, there's no restaurant. There's like, I don't think there's barely a gas station. You know, there are no amenities. So it's really for people who want to, you know, get totally, you know, put themselves in the middle of the desert.
I think that out of the 7 desert cities that we have of the Nabateans, this is actually the most beautiful one. But because Avdat is on Road 40, sometimes people stop at Avdat. Okay.
No, I would say, yeah, definitely. And Avdat, more than just that, it's like it's right next to Sde Boker. It's like, you know, you can anchor yourself in Sde Boker and see a bunch of things within an hour. It's not the same with Shivta. I mean, it's got to be a little. You have to want to get away from everything, and perhaps archaeologically maybe there's more of a, you know, a reason, you know, somebody's studying that or what have you. It's a fantastic site. So
yeah,
for a group that's spending two nights, maybe a kedma, at Sde Boker, I would definitely do one day going down this way, because there are other things that you can build into a trip that would include, Shivta. So definitely a worthwhile site.
How far from Mishpon Ramon is it?
It's
I think an
probably about
hour.
an hour and a half.
Yeah, an hour.
Yeah.
Because I've taught, when I've gone to Israel, the problem with going with Ramon is it really takes a lot of time out of your regular schedule, seeing so much out of Israel. When you go to Ramon, it takes a
Yeah,
day.
Mitzvah Ramon is here.
Yeah. But you have to go kind of north and south. It's not an,
So if you're at Ramon, you could do Shifta, or that's still really not a good deal.
Again, it's quite a drive. You see.
it's quite a drive.
Yeah, you have to.
But if you're
drive,
staying
like,
at Sde Boker, which is already maybe 45 minutes north of, well, maybe it's not 45, maybe half an hour north of Mitzvah Ramon, 45 minutes, then it's not as far of a drive. You're kind of like cutting it. You're putting yourself more central. You can do Mitzvah Ramon, you can do Shifta, you can do, other things over towards the west, towards the Dead Sea. And obviously you can do Beersheba. So, for a group or of individuals who are just staying, one a little bit more of a central location, that could make sense, and then you can kind of fit it all in without spending too much time on the road.
So different topic, but it seems like you were saying that there's a lot more agriculture there now. What's
than ever.
Yeah, and what's
Than ever in
driving
history.
that from a water perspective? I'm sure they're not, or maybe they are, just relying on whenever it rains every so often, just doing a much better job of capturing that, or are there other technologies?
There's 1,000 feet, 1,000 meters underground. There's a whole aquifer.
Yeah. There are fossil water under the Arava Valley, and since the 1960s, they managed to have the main conveyor of water, the main pipeline from the Sea of Galilee, from the Kinneret all the way to this area. So this is from the 1964. They conveyed the water. I used the red color. Maybe I should use the blue one, right? But this is again starting from the 60s. So I would say that this area is connected to the national water system at the moment, and the national water system diversed its sources. So for example, now we have desalination plants that here, let's say, just draw desalination plants. Let's say we have, I think, like 5 of those now. They're still building a few of them. So this is on the coastline. Add to that new methods of capturing flash floods in the Negev desert. So for example, by the Dead Sea in this area, they capture flash floods from the Negev desert and enriching the aquifers or pumping it to another area of Hatzeva. So anyway, they found new ways to diverse the water sources over here. So clearly they don't rely exclusively on rainwater and ancient cisterns or anything like that. And that's what allowed it to develop so dramatically. And again, it's very diverse. It's also very diverse crops. The crops are very diverse. There is, Elisa, do you remember the Moroccan oil? There's the guy that is Aragan, I think. Do you remember that? There's the Moroccan type of oil that's used for hair.
Right, Aragon is the Moroccan one. Jojoba is the one that's also manufactured down there.
Yes, by Beersheba, and there is the Aragon oil. It's a Moroccan oil used for hair and cosmetics. And there is the guy near Sde Boker that is, I think, is the only one outside of Morocco that is growing it or something like that. Is like he came up with that, and it's like little shrubs with nuts, small nuts, and you manually deal with these nuts. And you have to grind it. So he's like somewhere over here. I can't remember exactly where.
There's also a woman outside of Beersheba at Tel Sheba who is a Bedouin entrepreneur, Miriam, and she manufactures her own cosmetics. And people have taken people for
over here, the town of Tel
there.
Sheva. I'm just showing you where it is. Yeah.
So that's also
why was Ben Gurion buried in the Negev?
That was his kibbutz.
It's his vision that the people of Israel should take over the Negev and make it thrive and bloom. Yeah. He had a saying, sorry?
So that was his first kibbutz that he founded coming from Poland? Is that?
No. He came there only when he was older. He was like in his 60s. Yeah, he kind of retired to this kibbutz.
Okay.
Yeah. he was very envy with them. In 1948, he saw them for the first time, and so somewhere in the 50s, between a few of his terms, he joined them, and he lived there until he passed away in 73. So, but his vision was, he said this: if Israel won't capture the Negev will capture Israel. Like the desert in the climate, but also the civilization. Like if you don't conquer it, then it will take over you. And that's why he emphasized it could be easily, be buried in Mount Herzl here in Jerusalem. But he decided, no, I will be buried in Sde Boker, and everyone will come and visit me in the Negev desert and hear about my vision. He actually, at this point, I just remind you, Gaza Strip was held by the Egyptians, the West Bank by Jordan. And in 1947, the discussion was about the partition plan. So he said, okay, I'm going to have a little bit of lands, in the northern valleys, in the Galilee, etc. Okay, fine, the coastline. But where am I gonna, where all the millions of Jews that will come to Israel would live? He was talking about, Jews from all over. And he said they would live in Negev desert. 3 million of them will work in the industry, and 2 million in agriculture. That was his vision. 5 million Jews living in the Negev desert. We're scratching the million. It's not even a million people at the moment. So most people didn't follow through with his vision, but that's what he.
Yeah, but I do have to say that the Ben Gurion University, which is down in Beersheba, has become seriously like the place almost for students, after the army to go to school. It's the one university here that actually most kind of reflects, somewhat of a college life as compared to, what you'd find in the States. It's become a very popular university. It's getting really difficult to get into. They've got a lot of money. And they've gotten, a lot of, I don't want to say donations, but I think they got like 40, I don't know, some huge
Yeah, they got some
endowment,
serious donation recently.
a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also helped to encourage more people to move down there. And of course, the Army has moved their main headquarters, Arabian. That's where trained to become an officer. It's a huge campus. It's south of Beersheba. And again, obviously sometimes people like to have special meetings and things there, but that's like an entire city, and that's created a real demand for more housing in the area because you've got officers, you've got the Army Corps there, so you're getting a real high level of residents that are moving down there. And obviously the roads have improved, and we have a train that takes you right to the university, in less than an hour from Tel Aviv. So
this is the base you were talking about. It's like a city. Yeah. So that's what like 10 minutes drive south from Beersheba. I'll just say that from halachic point of view, the Negev desert, southern from the Negev desert, definitely from Tzin Valley where Sde Boker is, this is not even Israel. This is not let's say for Trumot, Maasarot, all the taxes, different taxes for the temple. You don't have to pay those taxes when you're southern from this point. So although in the Bible we do know that Eilat was conquered by Solomon, then later by Amaziah, Yotam, there are a few righteous kings that actually ruled the Red Sea, and for a period of time. And it was not enough, I guess, for the sages to determine that, okay, even from there you have to pay the different taxes to the temple. It's a part of the tax. It's a part of the taxation region of the temple. So the point is that today, if you grow crops here in this region, although it's in modern Israel's boundaries, you don't have to, follow through with all the different agriculture taxes and different restrictions and laws. Okay. Any other question, my friends? I would love to hear it. Please. Don't hesitate.
Actually, I heard the military has been getting rid of their bases up in main Israel, so the property's so valuable there, it's cheaper to move into the Negev. That's why I moved a lot of stuff down there.
Correct. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the Bahadim city that Lisa just mentioned. Yeah. This is expensive property up near Tel Aviv.
I do want to just say, again, thank you to Severio and the synagogue for allowing us this opportunity. We really appreciate you guys bringing us in and allowing us this chance to really put together a meaningful program. And for us, I have to tell you, having not worked since March, it's just, and I know Itamar feels the same way. It's great to connect with people like this. I mean, who would have thought? And for us, we just love being able to, share our passion. And again, I can't thank you enough. And we hope we'll be able to, continue to do these programs. And we'd love to hear your comments and if you want to share with us afterwards, we hope you really enjoyed the program. So
We
thank
look forward
you.
to seeing you in person. That's what we really want to do, see you in person. It's been 3 years since I've been. I can't wait to get back.
Yeah.
Well,
and
we'd
just
love to.
along those lines, we do have another tour scheduled with Elisa and Itamar on March 21st. So look for information about that coming out. And these have been very popular. We do get good feedback. So, we'll
Great.
look to keep it
Very,
going.
it's a great site that I've always enjoyed, which is not a lot of people don't go. Zipporah is a great place to go.
Oh, yeah.
Zipporah, yeah, of course.
Yeah. We just went
Very
hiking there
interesting, a
about,
lot of good stuff there. It's a great place.
yeah. And it's gorgeous this time of year. It's just so beautiful and so green. And sorry, I know you guys in the middle of the winter, you don't want to hear that. Okay.
Snowing right now.
Sorry.
The snow here is just so beautiful. All 9,000 inches, they're just so beautiful.
That's nice too. It's a different kind of beauty. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
anyway.
Thank you.
Thank
For
you, guys.
Thank you all.
Elisa,
Thank you. Have a
thank you.
healthy, safe week, month, and we look forward to seeing you guys all really soon. So
Thank you very much, guys. And I promise to take you to Shivta, no matter what.
that's right. We're going.
Thank you.
Hey, Trout, guys, all the best. And thank you again for spending some time with us here. And talk soon. Bye, Lisa.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Tamar.
Bye, guys. Bye, Rabbi.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Severio. Tara.
Great seeing you guys.
All the
Good
best.
seeing you too. Bye, Tara. Maureen.
Bye-bye.
Rona. Bye.